Wait, please look at your phone. Can't hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Yes,
All
good.
right.
Okay.
We're good. All right. There's been a little bit of a technology slip here, but we're here. We're here for Yontif, getting ready for Sukkos. The reason for the technology slip is because I wanted to bring you into our Sukkah, a little change of scenery. You know, it's a little different this year because of social distancing. It's the first year we're not going to have actual guests in our Sukkah. We'll talk about what kind of guests we do have a little later. But I thought maybe through our broadcast today, we can bring you into the Sukkah, start to have the flavor of Sukkot. It's really beautiful outside. And in fact, throughout the week, we're going to be broadcasting every morning a little Sukkot theme, not tomorrow and not on Sunday because it's the actual holiday, but in the intermediary days on Chol HaMoed, beginning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'll be sharing a daily Sukkot message, and this way, at least I'll feel a little more connected to so many of you who have been through our Sukkah through the years. So Sukkot is a time for being together. Many people are isolating, so now let's join together before Sukkot so we could at least be joined with the ideas and the inner meaning of Sukkot. But of course, as always, we have our partner, I guess, my partner in these broadcasts, Matel, who has some Yontif songs that he's going to share with us after the sermon. But just to get us in the spirit, a little lively Shalom Aleichem. It's been a few serious ideas and through serious notes that have been done in the past. And because of the festivity of the Chag of Sukkot, Matel will join us. Matel, let me get you on. Are you there? There you are. Matel's here. He's going to sing a nice Havenu Shalom Aleichem. So, Matel, let me put you on the full screen here. We got it? No, not yet. There you go. Matel.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and I hope you all had easy fasts and meaningful holidays wherever you are. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem.
So, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a very serious days of awe, the high holidays, in which we, in which we took very seriously our relationship, our connection with God. And as I pointed out in our sermon before Yom Kippur, it's like a dating process. You think about what the relationship with Hashem, with your Creator, could be, and you think about the possibilities that you can actually feel that relationship. So Sukkot is like the dating process. You go out, we have a nice meal in the Sukkah. You don't have to be so serious about the holidays and the prayers. And here we are in the beautiful Sukkah on a beautiful day. So let me explain and share with you what Sukkah, let me get back a little bit, what Sukkot means to me and why it's so important during these times that what we're all going through. And if you've been following my teachings and the sermons that I've been sharing, it's the idea that there's a timelessness to the messages of Torah that are so timely. And Sukkot is right there on for what we're all going through now as a community. So let me start with a little story. So once this fellow who is on his deathbed and about to pass away and decides, he's going to distribute his possessions to his family. So he calls his oldest child. His oldest child is Mark. He says, hey, Mark, come over. I'm giving you the two big towers in Midtown. Then he goes to his son, John. He says, John, I'm giving you the homes, the exclusive row homes, right at the edge of town. And to his third son, he says, hey, Christopher, I'm giving you all the vacation villas that are right out of town. Wow. The nurse is looking at this. He turns to the wife and says, man, your husband must have been very wealthy. Says, wealthy? He doesn't own those buildings. He was giving them the newspaper delivery routes that he had. And that's were his routes that he was giving to his children. And you see, my friends, what do we really own? We talk about having a home, having this home and that building and this building. And in fact, thank God, I think most of the people who are watching this have a home, and probably a nice home. We live here in the suburbs. We live comfortably, thank God, Baruch Hashem. And we have a stable roof over our house. Yet, for the next 7 days, we're told to leave our home, to leave the stability of your house and go into a sukkah. In fact, the whole idea of a sukkah is the four walls can be real solid brick. What makes a sukkah appropriate to participate in this holiday is the fact that there is schach, that the roof is penetrable. So if it rains, if it's windy, it all comes through. You don't have that real security of comfort that you get from your home. And as wealthy as you are, as many homes as you have to leave the home and meet God in a sukkah. Now, when you want to go out on a date, you're not going to go to a shack. You're going to go to a nice place. You want a comfortable place. Why the sukkah? Why does this mitzvah become the follow-up to the intensity of the days of Yom Kippur? And believe me, we don't go out in the sukkah because it's nice weather. In fact, it gets pretty chilly in Sukkot. And in fact, the reason why we celebrate Sukkot now in the fall as opposed to spring, when it would have been more appropriate, as you'll soon see, is so you shouldn't feel so comfortable. You should feel a little bit uncomfortable and vulnerable. And that's the point of the sukkah. You see, there's two opinions, or actually two reasons of why we eat in the sukkah. The spiritual, emotional part is, like I said, it's a time to kind of connect with God. But why in the sukkah? Why in this experience? So all our holidays are connected to how we became a people. Passover is the birth of the nation. Shavuot is when we received the Torah to define us as a nation. Sukkot, there's two opinions. It both say it represents when the Jewish people were traveling from Egypt to the Holy Land of Israel after the Exodus. They spent about 40 years in the desert. How did they survive the conditions in the desert? So we're taught in tradition that there were these clouds that surrounded the Jewish people, that protected them from all the elements and gave them strength. So one opinion saying that's what the sukkah is about, to remind us about the protective cloud that God provided the Jewish people. That's why the sukkah has four walls and a covering. But there's another opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says it represents the temporary nature of the living quarters as we traveled. We didn't have fancy homes. We didn't have nice backyards. We didn't have secure walls and a roof. We were very vulnerable. And it reminds us of that vulnerability that we experienced as we were going through the desert. So we sit in the sukkah to remind us of the temporary nature of our living quarters at that time. So I can understand the idea of the clouds. Every holiday kind of represents an upbeat message. The crossing of the sea, the exodus of Egypt, the revelation at Sinai, this, that. Sukkot is the extraordinary miracle of those clouds. But what would the reason be to celebrate the temporary nature of the shacks that we lived in for 40 years? Why would we even want to remember that? Why would we even want to go back to those times of vulnerability? Why does that become a reason to celebrate? And the answer is, in a sense, That is the greatest reason to celebrate, because what it's teaching us is, despite that for 40 years we were very vulnerable to the elements around us, things weren't so stable, things were not predictable, but we remained focused. And it's that inner focus and inner drive that is actually miraculous. It's not good to, it's not hard to be happy when you have what you need. If you're happy when you don't have what you need, and you're able to move through and focus on the deeper purpose of why you're here, that's a great miracle that God provided, that the Jews just didn't give up. Sometimes they felt like giving up, but they made it to the promised land. Despite the vulnerable conditions, they remained focused on the purpose. And at the end of the day, they made it to the promised land. And when they looked back, as we've mentioned in the past sermon, they actually realized that all the vulnerabilities and all the shaky conditions that they were in, actually each one served a very specific purpose. And that's what we celebrate on Sukkot. We celebrate on Sukkot not the comfortable ease of a relationship, but the ability to live through even a challenging relationship when things are a little shaky and things are more vulnerable. And that is why this holiday is precisely the holiday of Zman Simchasenu, the holiday of joy. Is it so joyful to sit in a cold sukkah at night, or sometimes when it's a little rainy? Is that really what you call joy? On a cold night, joy is sitting by a fireplace inside, not by a sukkah outside. But this is the message. Joy is not the end result of accumulating or doing something. Joy is actually the ability to get you over the hump and to get you through the challenge, and not to be so put down by the weight of the challenge, but to uplift yourself by the power of the purpose. Joy breaks the barrier. And that's why precisely on Sukkot, when we go out in the sukkah in some challenging conditions, outdoors with a vulnerable ceiling, and we're able to connect to that deeper value and deeper purpose, that we become joyful. You know, there's a story about 150 years ago. The mayor of Berlin, that was back then when the Jews in Berlin enjoyed well, now as well, but pre-Holocaust, enjoyed good relationships. So the mayor, the head of the city, went to visit the head of the Jewish community, the rabbi, at a Seder. And he heard how the child was saying, "Father, I'd like to ask you the 4 questions. Why is this night different from all other nights of the whole year?" Now, this mayor has been to the rabbi's house before, even at a Sukkos dinner. And he turns to the rabbi and says, "I don't have a question. Why do you ask this question? Why is this night different? If you're looking for a really different night from the whole year, it's on Sukkot. It's when you go out of your house and you have the meal in the chilly, cold weather. That's really different, a lot more different than Passover when you're having a beautiful meal indoors. Why don't you ask that question during Sukkah when you're going through the vulnerable, challenging times?" And the rabbi smartly answered that for Jewish history and for the Jewish people, vulnerability and having to deal with challenges is not different. That is understood why we're going through a challenge. But that was maybe a joking remark, but that is so true. That this is the story of our history. The story of our history of persevering through challenges, not because we have the strength to overcome a challenge, because we have the strength to focus on purpose and value, the faith that gives us the understanding that there is a direction in all of our lives, and we just have to be focused on moving forward. The more focused we are moving forward, the stronger we are to live in the present. And that's why this is so, so important for us during these times. My friends, on one hand, it's getting a little easier. On the other hand, it's getting a lot harder. The vulnerability, the insecurity, the lack of knowing what's going to be next is really weighing heavy on our hearts. It's kind of when we were total isolation, a total shutdown, you know, it's shut down. But to kind of be moving forward and having to move backward and not knowing exactly how to move is very straining. But as Jews, Sukkos teaches us that even at the times we feel most vulnerable, let's have the faith that there's a purpose. And we just need to always focus on the next day, on the next step. Be focused on doing the right thing now, doing the proper thing now. And with building one step after the other, as the Jews went through the 40 years in the Sukkah, we're going to go through whatever limited time that God is putting us all through this, but with our mind that at the end, we will be able to look back with purpose. And knowing that at the end there is that purpose should give us the joy, not to be happy about what's going on, but the joy of giving us the strength to move forward, to be focused on that goal. Sukkot is such an important message. It's such a valuable lesson for us, precisely at this time. And I therefore want to wish you all a happy Sukkot. And although we can't physically be together in the Sukkah, I want to remind you of the teaching in the Jewish tradition that on Sukkot we have our spiritual guests, that every night there's a soul of a different one of our founding fathers and founding leaders that enters into the Sukkah and becomes part of your celebration. No, we don't see someone walking in, but that energy of that soul is there. And through each of our broadcasts, we will talk about the spiritual visitations that we have every day. Not a visitation that we see a physical object, but an energy that we can tune into. The first sukkah, the first of our guests are Abraham, our first father. And in the Hasidic tradition, we go to the founding teacher of Hasidus, the Baal Shem Tov. Each one of them taught us a very, very important lesson. But before we go into that lesson, let's have a nigun, let's have a song. We have a song of joy, a song that talks about Sukkot, the song of Visamachta. And we're going to bring in now Motel. You ready, Motel? You there? All right,
Yes.
Motel, give us a Visamachta. And after the Visamachta, we will teach another lesson and then conclude with another song. Motel.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח.
Yeah.
You know what, Rabbi? I'm going to change the key because I learned the second nigun and I mixed it up with the first one. So I'd like to start it over.
Coming from Yom Kippur, you have the power of Teshuvah. Go for it, Matel.
And in the spirit of Sukkot, I'm feeling vulnerable too. So there you go. Okay.
Which one are you doing? The bad one?
Yes, Visamachta.
What?
When you go to the second part of your sermon, I'm going to relearn it and then I'll do it.
Okay.
Yes, the regular one first. There we go. There we go. אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית 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 אך שמח.
Are we unmuted here? Yeah, you got that? I tried to mute the sound. See, we're in the sukkah. You hear a plane flying over here in Yardley.
Oh,
so,
goodness.
you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Matal. So now we'll go to the second part, and then we'll conclude with the other V'samachta.
Yes.
So, who are the guests for today? The guest for today is the Abraham and the Baal Shem Tov. So let's talk about Abraham just for a moment. Abraham was the founder of the Jewish faith. He was a revolutionary. The entire world at that time were worshiping idols. And Abraham was a singular person who changed the trajectory of the world, not just for Jews, but for all religious faith and believe in the Creator. Think of what he had to go through to be able to introduce this, what was then a foreign idea, into the psyche of the human being. Abraham is the energy of breaking through. And so it was the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov who founded the Hasidic movement wasn't just a little movement. There was a certain attitude that he introduced, an attitude that focused not so much on your mind and how much you actually do, because not everybody's capable to study so much. Not everybody's capable to have a deep understanding of the truths of the Torah, but everyone is capable to touch their soul and allow their soul to express itself. You may not understand the deepest meanings of making a blessing to God, but you can still say Baruch Hashem and bless God. You may not understand the deepest meaning of doing a mitzvah, but your soul tells you do it. Enjoy that relationship. The Baal Shem Tov taught us to focus on the depth of our soul, of who you really are. These were two people that broke through an idea, even within an idea. And therefore tonight, the first night of Sukkos, you have to think about, where are you most vulnerable? What is the hardest space in your life to break through, to be able to grow spiritually, to touch your soul? And resolve tonight that you're going to work on it, because tonight we have the power to accomplish that. Tonight's guests are Abraham, our patriarch, the Baal Shem Tov. Let us be inspired to create breakthroughs in our life. I want to wish you all a good Yontif, a wonderful Sukkos. We'll see you again Monday morning at 8:30 for a very short, brief conversation and story, inspirational story on the guest of on Monday. We'll discuss that then. For now, let's go back to Matal for another V'samachta, and we will enter the holiday with joy, upbeat spirit, and determination to break through our greatest challenges.
Okay, here we go.
All right. There you go. There we go. I'm unmuted again. V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayita ach sameach. It's a verse in Deuteronomy in the Torah that you shall be happy on your holidays and only experience joy. What better words can I say farewell as we usher in this beautiful holiday? V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayisa ach sameach. May you all have joy. May you all have meaning. May you all have great excitement during the rest of the 8 days of Yontif. Good Yontif and good Shabbos.